So now we will discuss about the conduction of heat in a metal rod, and we will try to understand some states, that is variable state and steady state. So what are all these? So whenever we take any metal rod, it may be iron or copper or silver, any metal rod. So what happens? So generally whenever we heat at one end, suppose this end, heat source is present at this end, it means initially we are heating this end. So what will happen? We already know. The heat will transfer from this end to this end by conduction method, isn't it? Since it's solid. So at initially what will happen? So this end will be heated, then slowly and gradually heat will be transferred to different layers, isn't it? It will transfer to the layer, different layer, or along the rod, isn't it? Along the length of the rod, isn't it? So slowly and gradually, if we consider some layer, here we have considered 3 layers. So suppose this layer is very close to the heat source. So since the layer which is very close to the heat source, it will be heated up rapidly at first. Then the layer which is at a far distance, it will heated up later. It means the layer which is at a far distance, its temperature will be lower and it will take some time, and it will be heated at a delay, at a long time, after a long time. So it will take time later. So it is very similar. So suppose there is a fast layer here, okay, and heat is transferring from this end to this end because we are heating this end, okay. Give the name. Suppose this is A and B, okay. Suppose we have heated the B part. So what would happen? So at first there are so many layers also here. There are so many layers here and here. So we are considering 3 adjacent layers. So at first this layer, what would happen? This layer will take heat, will absorb heat from its previous layer. Okay. So since there is a 3 layers, so at first this layer will absorb heat. 3 layers at the very close to heat source, at the middle, at the far end. Okay. So what happened to the middle? Considering the middle layer, whose 2 sides, right side is the hot layer and towards the left side it is the cold layer. It means it will take heat. We have considered here the key role here plays at the middle layer, because it will absorb heat from its previous layer and transfer heat to the next layer. So actually what happens? By absorbing heat, since this layer very close to its source is very close, so it will be at first heated up. Then if heat had to transfer, if have to transfer from the next layer, what would happen? So this layer, which layer at the middle, it will absorb heat from its previous layer and become heated, isn't it? So it will absorb heat. It will absorb heat. So it will not absorb the entire amount of heat. The heat which this layer will transfer to this, it will not use up that part of use. The total heat will not be used in heating up this layer. The heat which this layer will transfer to this, or you may say the middle layer will absorb or take from its previous layer, it will used up, okay, in 3 ways, okay. It has 3 functions. Some part of it, the heat which this layer absorbed from its previous layer, by absorbing some part of it, it will become heated. It means its temperature will increase. Rest part, some part will radiate through its outside surface, through radiation, which has been shown by arrow in the outside. Radiated heat, RH means radiated heat. And the rest part it will transfer to its next layer, and this process will continue, okay, like this. So what happens? The heat will transfer along this length. Any layer will just absorb by absorbing the heat from its previous layer. Some part of the absorbed heat, it itself consume, isn't it? It absorb, by absorbing heat, it will heat it up. It means its temperature will increase. Some part of the absorbed heat will increase its temperature. Some part will just radiate in the outside in the form of radiated heat, and the rest part will transfer to the next layer. Okay. Now this process means, in this process we can see the temperature of each layer is just variable. It's just increasing from this side to this. Isn't it? Variable means changing. This side was at first it was heated, very close. So after getting thermal energy through vibration becomes agitated, giving kinetic energy or thermal energy to the next layer, becomes cool. It means change, states change. It was initially at hot state, now it has become cold state. Next layer, by heating, by absorbing the heat, becomes at the hot state. Now after absorbing heat, increase temperature, some part of the heat is radiated in the outside, then the rest part is transferred. So it means all the layers at temperatures are generally increasing, in the state of increasing. So this process is called variable process or the variable state. This state is called variable state. Now doing continuing all these at a time, it will come when the temperature of all the region will become constant, steady. It becomes steady, remains constant. It means that temperature will not be increased further. Whatever be the temperature of the each layer, they will become at a constant. It means each layer will just stop receiving heat from its previous state. Clear? It means at a time, by absorbing heat, then radiating, then transferring heat to the next layer, at a time it will come when the process of increase of temperature just becomes stop. It means any next layer or any succeeding layer will just stop receiving heat from its previous layer, and each layer will just attain a steady state. It means in that case temperature remains constant. Not the entire body, the temperature of the entire body, it doesn't mean at steady state all the temperature of the entire body is remain same. Since it is okay, suppose the temperature of this layer is 20 degrees centigrade, then it is 25 degree, it is 30 degree. So in whatever be the temperature be of the each state, they will fixed for some time. It is called steady state. Which means after, isn't it? Means since, why is it happening? Since suppose, now it's very easy. At first it is heated. Suppose it is 60 degree, then it is transferring heat. So its temperature will reduces. So suppose it is 50 degree, then it is become, okay, what can I say? Suppose 60 degree, then after transferring heat it becomes 30 degree. Since continuously it is transferring heat, it is okay, losing it. So at a time it becomes 30 degree, it becomes 40 degree, and it becomes 50 degree. So at a time it will come in the steady state where the temperature of all these states will remain constant but at differing 30 degree, 40 degree, 50 degree. Because the succeeding layer will stop receiving heat from the previous layer. It's just like boiling point of water, isn't it? Isn't it? Not exactly like that, because in case of boiling point of water, temperature of the entire surface is 100 degrees centigrade. Whatever give temperature, okay, heat you will give, its temperature will not going to increase. But here, what happens? Since it is okay, heat is transferred constantly from previous layer to next layer. So at a time it will come when temperature of each layer, in whatever be the temperature, they will remain fixed for some time. This is called steady state. Why? Because every succeeding layer or the next layer is just receiving heat from its previous layer. So that's why, since heat supply is stopped, isn't it? Supply source is stopped. So whatever be the temperature, they will fix. This is the logic, or this is the explanation. Okay. So it means, okay, since receiving heat will stop, so this will become the steady state, isn't it? Even if we give heat more further, it will also attain that value. If we continue heat that, it will still clear. So this is called steady state, but very momentarily. Clear? Now since it is stopped receiving heat from its previous layer, so the transfer of heat depends only on its conductivity. In variable state, it depends on both, that is on specific heat capacity, that is specific heat, and conductivity of the material of the rod. But in case of steady state, it only depends, the heat transfer depends only on the conductivity. It means the ability to conduct heat. How it can conduct heat, that is how fast or slow, that is called conductivity, which we are going to discuss in the next video. So in variable state, the transfer of heat depends on both the specific heat and the conductivity of the material of the rod, whereas in steady state, the transfer of heat depends only on the conductivity of the material of the rod or the substance. Since every succeeding layer stops receiving heat from its previous layer. Okay.